We would like to acknowledge the Yuggera people and the Turrbal people as the traditional custodians of Meanjin, the lands on which we record this podcast today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Health of It podcast, a podcast made for healthcare professionals by a nurse on the inside. So my name is Jess Tully and I am the HCA Brand Ambassador and a registered nurse myself. Now you've obviously clicked on this episode because you're interested in potentially doing a New South Wales placement in Griffith, New South Wales. Now I have done so many contracts in Griffith, New South Wales. I was trying to calculate how many contracts I've actually done there. And I think I've spent about 1 year and 3 months total in that town alone by doing contract work. So safe to say that it's definitely one of those favourite spots that I always go to. I've just had really great memories and I've just had a really great, professional work experience there as well. So Griffiths was actually the very first contract I ever did as a brand new rural remote nurse. So for those people who are kind of starting out and they don't really know where to go as their first placement, I can highly recommend Griffith. So it's a regional town, and when you're going into that kind of, travel nursing space and it's a brand new world to you, you've got 3 different options. So you've got a regional town or a regional hospital, which is a lot larger. You've got doctors there, you've got CT scans normally. It's quite a nice, over 20k population, sometimes up to 50k. And then you've got rural, which is a lot smaller, little towns of up to 5,000. Usually you don't have things like CT scans or doctors on call. Doctors like in the hospital, they're usually an on-call system. And then you've got your very remote, which is not a sector that I've actually gone into as yet, but I've done rural and I've done regional. So regional is a really good space to kind of just dip your toes in and kind of, you don't feel as isolated when you're a travel nurse and you go into a regional town because you feel like you're in like a little mini city, if that makes sense. So when I first got to Griffith, I wasn't super shocked at how small it was. It actually was a really nice size to me. It's about, I think I was Googling it, and it says there's a population of over 26,000. So, pretty decent amount. You've got lots of shops there, lots of restaurants, lots of things to do. I mean, obviously, if I've spent 1 year and 3 months, I've definitely done all the nice touristy things around there. So that's, what I'm going to talk about in this podcast today. So I do have my laptop with me because I have actually previously written a blog about my time in Griffith. And by the time this episode goes out, there will be a blog on Healthcare Australia that you can read. So you can either listen to this episode, and you can read the blog as well. But it's just giving kind of a highlight of my top tips and about my experience in Griffith. So fast facts that I've written: it's a major regional city in Murrumbidgee of New South Wales. Murrumbidgee is very famous for its wine. So amazing wineries, and I'm a huge wine lover myself, so I've definitely gone to town and explored all the wine when I was there. And there's actually over 70 nationalities that live in Griffith alone. So, 26,000 population and 70 nationalities. It's very multicultural, which is pretty awesome to see as well. And I definitely felt the vibe when I was there in the hospital. So many different cultures, so many different nationalities, all coming together, all just like working together as a community. So, that's a really cool fact that I remember hearing about that. And it's part of the Riverina wine region, which is Murrumbidgee's a part of Riverina. So if you've heard of that terminology before, it just means there's epic wine, really. So the hospital itself is pretty decent size. Like, it is small compared to obviously a metro setting like a city, but I've definitely worked in a lot smaller. So to me, I feel like it's like a nice little medium size hospital. You've got your emergency department, you've got wards, you've got a surgical ward and a medical ward, and then you've also got ICU, which is a very little mini ICU, and you've also got theatre. So I actually started off doing a theatre placement when I was in Griffith, and then eventually I started doing emergency contracts. So I've kind of dibble-dabbled in both specialties within the one hospital. If you are a theatre nurse listening to this, you do need to be an all-rounder. So I don't personally have anaesthetic experience, but I do have scrub scout in recovery. So I worked in those kind of 2 areas. So as long as you have kind of 2 fundamental skills, you just, kind of really need to have at least more than 1 skill. So if you're just a recovery nurse, you kind of do need to reach out and do another specialty before taking a contract like this, because there is a lot of on-call work and it is quite busy in theatre. So you've got your normal elective list. So you do scopes, colonoscopies, there's eye surgery, urology, then you've got your general surgeries as well as gynecology. So there's a few specialties and there's a lot of obstetrics as well. So when you're on call, the main things that I got called out for was things like perianal abscesses, emergency C-sections, things like that. So when you're on call in a place like this, be expected to be called out. So I was on call roughly about 4 nights a week sometimes, 3 to 4, depends how busy we were. And I definitely was called out quite a lot of that time. So if you like the money, at least you get called out, hey? So the emergency department has 15 bed spaces and it's just roughly about 20,000 presentations a year. So I did this blog about a year ago. So obviously, the facts and figures might have changed since I have written this blog, but a very busy ED department. So you've got ED doctors there at all times, it's 24 hours obviously, and you've got a range of doctors there doing different shifts. You've got 2 beds in your resus area, you've got a dedicated triage area, and you've got a fast track section as well. So always under the pump, always something to do in ED. There was never a dull day, I tell you that. I definitely learned so much. The staff in ED especially are just incredible. And if any of them are listening to this now, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me such an incredible experience, because those people really made me love Griffith. The people in that hospital, those people that are locals that have worked there for years and years, they are so welcoming of agency, and they're just so down to earth and just the most amazing people. So shout out to you guys, you're legends, and thank you so much for giving me such a great experience. So there's also, as I said, an operating theatre. So there is 2 operating theatre beds. So, you've got 2 surgeries going at the same time, depending on your elective list. And then also you've got your emergency list. They go out into a very small recovery area. So there's about 3, potentially up to 4 bays, depending on how they're going in recovery. And then they can go to the day ward or to the medical ward or surgical ward, depending if they're staying overnight. Then you've also got a maternity section. So they do have midwives there, and that has 10 beds and a roughly 600 births a year. But remember, stats do change, so I'm unsure. This is only about a year ago I wrote this blog. But I felt like there was a lot of births, because when I was working in theatre, I just felt like so many cesarean sections. There's quite a high Italian community in Griffith, New South Wales, and they love children. So there's just so many babies, I feel like. So many babies. It says specialties here that they do emergency medicine, critical care, general medicine, surgery, pediatrics. So they have a little pediatric ward as well. Oncology, obstetrics, respiratory, renal, and hospital in the home with rehabilitation. They also have physio, pharmacy, social work, OT, Aboriginal health, which is really helpful. They really do have everything there. And in terms of their diagnostic services, they've got X-ray and CT. So if you need to do a trauma CT or anything like that, you've got it. So the main places that you send people, if they're needing more further care, is Wagga Wagga. Or you can just say Wagga. People used to tease me because I used to say Wagga Wagga. But that is the biggest regional hospital. So that's where the transfers would go. And that was just a few hours from Griffith. So the town of Griffith, you get a small Rex plane. So if you're flying, I definitely recommend driving. So if you've got the option to fly and drive, I always tell people to drive, because having your car there means that you can explore the region. You just have so much more independence. You can get your groceries easier. You can go visit, wineries. You can just do so much. And I'm always very experience focused. Like, some people go on contracts and they're money focused. They just want to work, nothing else. I'm very experience driven. So I go on these contracts, yes, to get some good coin, but also to experience life and experience new things. So if you have the ability to have a car with you, then do it, because you can just explore so much and just see so much of the Murrumbidgee region. When you do arrive via flight, so it's a Rex flight, it's a very small one, look at your itinerary, because I signed a 12-week contract and I had a 15-kilo baggage allowance on the Rex flight. So I mean, I'm sure this is for males too, but for a female to put 15 kilos of your life into a bag for 3 months, very difficult. Like the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. So, I mean, I did it, but it was really hard. So just heads up with that. I actually bought a little cheap bicycle when I was there, and I just gifted it to other agency nurses. So I bought a bike for about $80, and I just like rode around town, and I had a little basket. I used to send it to my consultant at the time, and she just laughed and thought it was so cute because it was a bright yellow bike. So yeah, they do have Big W and Kmart available. So if you do want to buy a bicycle, you can do that. If you do drive, the coolest things that I found, so I'm from WA originally. I was from Perth, and then I did my first contract. And it blew my mind to know that it's only a 4-hour drive to Canberra, well, about 3.5 to 4 hours, and then 5 hours to Melbourne and 6 hours to Sydney. To me, to have days off and do a road trip and then be in a different state and be able to have a couple of days and then drive back home was just mind-blowing. Like, I actually just found it so much fun. I'm going to go into... Actually, before I dive into the food hotspots, I'm just going to give you a few tips about the agency world of doing New South Wales. So when you're doing your contract, now this is just if you're doing a contract. So when you do it with Healthcare Australia, you're kind of signing a contract to do New South Wales Health. So just have a look at your contract, because sometimes there are surge ones at the moment. And if you get paid by the agency, then this isn't applicable for you. But if you sign a contract and you're working for New South Wales Health, but under Healthcare Australia, so you get paid by New South Wales Health, then it's a fortnightly pay. And it is a little bit lower. So people thinking about agency world, they're kind of like, oh, I don't really want to go to New South Wales because I don't want New South Wales rates. But I will give you a little bit of pros and cons to it, okay? So obviously the rates are lower, but you can actually call Maxia. And Maxia are salary packaging. And if you phone them up, you're actually classified as a New South Wales Health casual employee. So if you say to them your agency, then you're not applicable. They're like, it doesn't work for you. But technically you're under a contract with New South Wales Health. So you're a casual employee, right? And you get a casual employee number. It'll be on your very first payslip. If you call Maxia, you can actually set up salary packaging. And I don't know the stats off the top of my head. I feel like it's like $9,000 or something that you save on tax. Either way, it's amazing. So I had a loan that I was paying, and you can actually put it so pre-tax money goes straight onto your loan. You can get your meal card where you can get pre-tax money put onto a meal card, like meal and entertainment card. And you have the options of doing that. So if you're doing a 3-month contract, do it, because you're going to save so much money. You can put it towards loans, you can put it towards bills, you can put it towards anything. So that's another little handy tip. So sometimes people don't want to go to New South Wales because of that reason, but when you look at that, it kind of justifies it and makes it so much better. So the big tip, just while it was on the top of my head just there. So food hotspots. Now it's like so well known in that town that it's got a high Italian community. So the Italian food is like next level, like absolute next level. I have been to Italy, and I swear to God, the food in Griffith is so much better. So there's a restaurant called Giuseppe, very popular one. Delicious. It has a big 3-meter pizza that you can go and share with your friends. It has amazing gnocchi. It's the best gnocchi I've ever had in my life. The gnocchi gorgonzola, which is like a blue cheese sauce through it. It is just, oh, I miss it every single day, which is why I spent so long there. It's open 7 days a week, and it's on the main street. So the main street is called Banner Avenue. So if you look on the map on Griffith, there's one main street, and that has all the restaurants, all the shops, everything there on the one handy street. You've also got a bakery called Bertoldo's, very famous. There is 2 different ones. If you go to the one on the top end, I'm pretty sure it's right, the top end is the bigger one, and then you've got a smaller version. But go to the bigger one because it has more tastier snacks. The thing that is so popular there is chicken chippies. They're so delicious. They're like a nugget but in a chip form, and they're just so addictive. So people would get chicken chippies all the time, and they're salty and delicious, and I'm sure they're not very good for you, but I mean, worth it. And they do amazing ice cream, like the most incredible ice cream, or would you say, sorry, gelato is what I say. The pistachio one is absolutely amazing. Now for really cool experiences, you've got a restaurant called Limone. Hopefully I say these right. I mean, I could be saying them wrong, but Limone is how I used to say it. And that is a fine dining restaurant. It's very, very cute. If you look on the outside, it just stands out, and they do fine dining, cocktails. I actually went and did a degustation there with wine pairing, and I forgot how much it was. I feel like it was about $150, but it was just such a nice fancy night out with friends, and we had the best time. And I love anything with wine pairing because the wine there is obviously incredible in Murrumbidgee. So highly recommend once again. I hope I'm selling Griffith to you because I really think it's just such a great place. Things to do in the area. So there's Piccolo Family Farm. I actually never got to go to Piccolo Family Farm, but they used to have events on all the time. So they used to have bands on, you can go for picnics, and it's just a huge area where there's fresh produce and there's a restaurant there. But I actually never got to go there personally. I just kept forgetting. I don't know why. But Piccolo Family Farm is a really popular spot. And then there's lots of walking tracks. So there's Lake Wyangan. Hopefully I said it right. It's not the most beautiful lake ever, not at all, but it is really close to the city centre. So if you just want to go for a really quick walk and you don't really want to go very far, that's a good one. And then there's also Kokopara National Park. Now that is my favourite. I went there so many times and did lots of little hikes, beautiful scenery, little mini waterfalls. Highly recommend that area. Now there's wineries, obviously, lots of wineries. I've been to these wineries like 4 or 5 times myself. They're just a really nice night out, really nice day out, with friends. Every time we had new agencies start, we'd love to take them and for a little cheese board, little wine tasting. So Yarran Winery is my favourite. It's probably 15 minutes out of Griffith. It's a stunning location. It's so beautiful. They have a cheese board and they have a selection of wines to choose. And then if it's a really pretty day, they actually have bean bags on the outside. And you can just sit on a bean bag with a glass of wine and just look at the vineyards and just like soak in the sunshine, and it's absolutely stunning. They also have a dog named Shadow, and Shadow is blind as well as deaf, but the cutest dog I have ever been around. I have so many selfies with Shadow. He bumps into everything, he knocks into everybody, but he can smell you, and he just, walks around the winery and he just, makes sure that everyone knows he's there. He's so cute. Give him a pat, he deserves it. You've also got Calabria wineries as well. Now, my absolute favourite wine is there. It's called Montepulciano. Once again, probably not saying it right, but look for the one starting with M. It's so cheap at the cellar door. If you were to buy this at a bottle shop, or especially if you're trying to buy it from another city, the price goes up like by 200%. So when you're buying it at the cellar door, it's actually super cheap. And they also do tasting experiences and cheese platters as well. It's a nice little setting, but it's not as beautiful as Yarran. But Calabria is more closer to the city centre. And then you've also got De Bortley. De Bortley is a very famous international company. So De Bortley wines are in Hong Kong, for example. In Singapore, you'll see De Bortley wines on the menu. So very nice. You could also do cheese boards as well. Not as nice of a setting compared to Yarran again, but once again, it's really close into the city centre. So if you're just having a nice little, afternoon out with friends, you can go to Calabria and you can go to De Bortley really easy. Now, something that's really fun, and I think that everyone needs to do when they go to Griffith, is go to Altina Wildlife Park. Now, this park is really special to me, and I've actually been 3 times. It is an African safari park, and all the owners have done everything themselves. So it's just a couple that started this park on their own. They brought in the animals. There is so much space for them. They're in their own habitat. They only limit the tours as well, so that there's not too much kind of interaction with the animals. And you go on a horse and carriage. Sometimes there's a motorized cart, depends. But I went on a horse and carriage, and you go through the entire wildlife park, and then you get out, and then you can feed the goats, and you get back in, and you can also do some behind the scenes experiences. So I've done behind the scenes experiences with so many of the animals. I've done it with the little monkeys, and I've done it with, I'm staring at this animal and I actually don't remember what it's called. It's like a little rat looking thing. Oh, I already forgot. But he's very cute. Anyway, I'm going to put all these photos up on the blogs so that people can see. I did see a baby Maine wolf, and when you see an adult picture of a baby Maine wolf, they're quite ugly, but I got to play with it when he was a little puppy, so that was really fun. And so that is, a little snapshot of Griffith, New South Wales. So obviously there is so much to do. The accommodation's really nice as well. A lot of people ask me about the accommodation. I've probably been in maybe 7 of the houses around Griffith, the agency houses, and I've been so happy in every single house. A lot of people ask me about pets and everything. I haven't personally worked with anyone who has brought a pet into Griffith and had the accommodation. Normally you have to outsource your own accommodation if you want to bring pets, but just speak to your consultant about that, because it is something I get asked a lot and I'm unsure because I've never traveled with pets. It really does reduce the opportunity of certain contracts, so speak to your consultant about those, particular contracts and if you can and can't do it. But in terms of the accommodation itself, I've always been so happy with where I've been. It is house sharing, but I have had such great experiences. I've lived with such amazing people that I'm still friends with to this day, and I'm actually so grateful that I was put in a house with other people, because it makes it not so isolating. It makes it enjoyable and fun, and you've got that bond already because you're both travel nurses and you're both alone. So to me, it's amazing. But there's heaps of nursing and heaps of midwifery positions. So if you're interested, I tell you now, get onto your consultant and sign a contract. And if you're not already with Healthcare Australia, then just join. You can message me anytime as well. So I'm the one behind the scenes on social media. So if you don't have our Instagram, it's healthcare.australia. I also run the TikTok page, which is Healthcare Australia, and you can laugh at my funny TikToks. And I also have a Facebook page. So we have the Healthcare Australia one, but I actually have one called HCA Ambassador. So if you want to just flick me a message on Messenger anytime, have any questions, I'm always here. I'm always open. And I think it's really great having somebody on the inside of Healthcare Australia to be able to help chat to you about all this stuff, because I've been a nurse for 10 years and I've been an agency nurse for the last 6 years. So I know the ins and outs of agency world and I can help you on your journey. So contact me anytime, but I'm really excited and I hope this has inspired you to go to Griffith, New South Wales. Bye guys.